we still got some stuff to talk about. I want to talk about the Warrior Wrestling show, Warrior Wrestling 19 from this weekend. We are going to talk about AEW Rampage and Dynamite, but first I want to switch gears, just leave the AEW bubble for a little bit. This week report, I think it's Fightful, right, that came out with it first. There have been rumors, big rumors, that WWE has reached out to Stone Cold Steve Austin for one more match. One more match. Say it with me. One more match. Let it back. One more match. Just the girls. One more match. In fact, the match between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Kevin Owens is being discussed for this year's WrestleMania, which is, of course, April 2nd and 3rd, just in a couple of weeks, folks. It would be Austin's first match since WrestleMania in 2003. WrestleMania, I'm terrible. 19? Is that the... I'm terrible with Roman numerals. I think that's what it is. 19. Where he lost to The Rock, right? Austin retired from in-ring competition all the way back in 2003 due to neck injuries originally stemming from that botched piledriver from Owen Hart at SummerSlam 97. In recent years, he has made sporadic appearances on WWE programming, and he has his own podcast, of course. So he's never really, well, not never, but recently he has been a lot more present on WWE programming for a while. Now, there are even rumors that this might not be a one-off, that he might be coming in for like a little extended stay. And honestly, look, let's be honest with each other. If the guy is good to go, and he's willing, he's capable of getting back into the ring, why would you turn that down? It would make absolutely no sense. Like, I don't care who, I don't care if I'm running WWE or whatever. If Stone Cold Steve Austin can go and is available, you put that guy in the ring. And it's just that simple. And people, you know, like, oh, he's broken down. Well, we don't know. This is what's completely fantastical when I hear this kind of bullshit. It's like, he's broken. He's out of the way. We've seen in the past 3 years so many older wrestlers who were told, your injuries, man, they're keeping you from the ring. You're done. Come back. I don't know what kind of magic rehabilitation. I don't know what, you know, Rey Mysterio has in his stem cells. I have no idea. I don't. Sting, look, Sting, Edge, Bryan Danielson, all people who were told you will never wrestle again. You are done. Rey Mysterio, since coming back in this WWE run here, he has not looked this good since his WCW Cruiserweight days. His previous to last WWE run was shit. And he comes back and you're like, what the hell is going on? Christian, yes, thank you, Anakin, in the chat. Christian is another fantastic example. And then you've got guys on the indies too. You know, you've got fucking Ricky Morton working, doing indie shows, pulling Canadian destroyers out of his ass. These are all people who Vince said, you can't do it anymore. Well, maybe not Ricky Morton, but you know, it's like, and now we're flipping the script. We're coming around. So if Austin has been rehabilitated and can go, I don't see why you wouldn't want that. Who in there, as a wrestling fan, would not want that? Now, someone challenged me a couple of days ago on Twitter. Was like, having some back and forth. And ended up asking me, Warren, who would you like to see? Who would you like to see Steve Austin wrestle? What would be who should we wrestle on his comeback? And I'm like, I'm always approaching this with caution, and was the same thing with Sting. I want to see him wrestle before I start dream matching. Before now, I'm like, oh, we've got this. We got this. This is what Stone Cold is able to do now. This is the level that he's able to go. Oh, well, he should do this, and that. I need to see him go before I get any more invested in it. And that's just me. That's just me, because if he comes back and he wrestles like, and if he wrestles like The Undertaker. No, hang on. Better example than that, especially if he comes back and he's wrestling like Keiji Muto. Okay? If he comes back and he's wrestling like 2021 Great Muta, Keiji Muto, I don't want any part of it. And I'm going to sit here. I promise you guys, if Austin can't go, he's got no cardio, his knees are broken, his timing is off. I'm going to sit here, right here in front of you, and I'm going to tell you Stone Cold needs to step away. He's hurting his legacy. But if it's the opposite that happens, I'll sit right here and I'll tell you, I want Stone Cold and Brock. I promise you that. If he can go, that's the match I want. I want Stone Cold and Brock Lesnar. Because that's the one we were cheated out of. That's the one we should get. Because I'm telling you, because Keiji Muto came back to Noah. Well, came back to wrestling and went to Noah. And in the year 2021 was the GHC World Heavyweight Champion, which is their top prize, right? And if you've never watched a Noah show, this is your work rate promotion, right? This is the one where I nerd out at the shit that they're doing, the pace they're going, how much they're laying into each other. It's a physical promotion. Like, the guys wail on each other. It's so good. But then your champion is Keiji Muto, who's got no more knees. The guy can't walk because his knees have been shot for years. He's got no cardio. He blows up in a second. And everything looks bad. His entire arsenal just looks like shit. And when you go back and you look at Great Muta from 1995, or his run in the early 2000s, you're like, that's the guy you want to remember, not this guy here, not 2021 world champion Keiji Muto, who's burying the younger guys because they're fighting him while they're on the undercard. They're slapping the shit out of each other and just like drilling each other, dumping each other on their necks. Muto lands an elbow and suddenly they're dead. Like, come on, fuck off. There's so much suspension of disbelief that you can take. So that's my point. Bring Austin back as long as he can go. Because if there's one thing that the legacy of Stone Cold Steve Austin has to this point here, is that we all know his career is unfinished. He retired before his time. The injuries are unfortunate, and the reasons that prompted his injuries were a shame. But all we have is great memories. All we have is great memories of the ass kicker, the brawler, the guy who could just light up the audience, right? Jaw-jacking, the attitude. I'm excited to a degree because there's a lot of apprehension going into this. Because we don't know in what state he is right now. We don't know what his physical state is. We don't know how much he's ready to go. And the thing here, let's not forget, Vince is desperate. Vince is desperate to get people on his big show, right? We can't forget that. You spend this is what's wild to me. You'll spend an entire year watching World Wrestling Entertainment, watching them give you superstars like, you know, Big E and Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns and Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair to come 2 months for in the space of a fiscal quarter, just have everything upended and be like, nah, look, you've got Brock, you've got Ronda, you've got Stone Cold, and you sort of forget everything else. Like everything else that you were trying to build, suddenly it becomes no longer part of the attraction. It's like the filler, because here's the attraction. This is what we want you to see. This is what we want you to watch. These people here. They're going to come in here for a couple of months and then they'll hit the bricks. It's terribly frustrating to get invested in people, to get invested in these storylines where all year you're told, oh, let it play out. Let's see how this goes. And just give it some time. And then you get to the event and you're not getting the people that you were supposed to be invested in. You're getting outsiders. You're getting part-timers. You get whatever you want to call them, you know? And it's frustrating as a fan. But then I understand why Vince does it. Because then it's like, who's your big star? Who's going to draw people? What is it, like 40,000 seats? I'm sure someone in the chat can check this out. I think the stadium is like 40,000 seats, and you got to fill them up for 2 nights. You're not going to do that exclusively on the back of Roman Reigns, who has and Brock Lesnar. You can't. That being said, look, Stone Cold, I'm excited for it. I think it's exciting. I think it's great. I think it exposes WWE. And apparently there's another Austin level surprise in the works, right? Is it The Rock? I don't think The Rock. I don't think The Rock. No way The Rock is wrestling. I know a lot of people are like, WrestleMania 39, it's going to be Roman and The Rock. The Rock is not wrestling. Because The Rock is in a position where WWE needs him more than they need, where WWE needs him more than he needs them. Absolutely, 100%. And you know who else is going to be in that position? 3 years. I give it 3 years. Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks is already too big for the Fed. She's already too big for the Fed. In 3 years, they're going to be begging her to come back to do an appearance. And they have her right now. She is right now, full-time, healthy, on a roster. They don't know what the fuck to do with Sasha Banks. How is Sasha Banks not already... How does she not have a top match slated for WrestleMania at this point? I promise you guys, let's have this conversation in 3 years and I will pull up this clip. In 3 years' time, WWE will be like, Sasha, please come back. Just one night. And Sasha will be like, it's boss time. But you know what? Here's the thing. You know what? I'm going to tell you. This is what we learned this week, right? Minoru Suzuki is coming back to North America and he's going to be in Dallas WrestleMania weekend working the indies. Okay? The very fact that we have Stone Cold Steve Austin returning to the ring the same weekend that Minoru Suzuki is in the same city as him, and we are not going to have a match between them both, proves to me that no one wants my money hard enough. That they don't really want my money all that much. That we don't really, or your money, or your money, or your money. Like, that to me is a tragedy. This is what politics and ego does to us, to you, the wrestling fan. It keeps you away from Stone Cold Steve Austin and Minoru Suzuki in a ring together, beating the shit out of each other.